fans, do you want to win your share of $100,000? Simply enter the houseofboxing.com Fight Night Prediction Challenge. Compete with boxing fans around the world. Simply head over to houseofboxing.com and sign up now.
Matt Lenihan, Boxing Social in association with Empire Fight Store and houseofboxing.com. Been joined by Frank Smith. Frank, how are we?
I'm good, mate. Good to be here in Newcastle, and it's sunny. It's not raining.
It's not great.
It's not raining. It's 10 degrees. That's why I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt. I'm bringing the summer.
The summer and the style, pal. Look, important that we kept this show on. Obviously, Pat McCormack obviously dropping out. Some good fights on the card, some exciting prospects. Cameron Vong off the back of his debut in a co-main event. Shabazz. Just quickly go through this card and obviously what excites you about it, because there's a lot of good fights on it.
Yeah, look, that was the focus for us, to make sure the show went ahead. We had 7 undercard fights on here. Newcastle's a market that we believe has huge potential. We've seen it over the years. We've been lucky enough to deliver some massive nights here with Lewis Ritson, and we believe we got some stars of tomorrow that are going to be those future names here and deliver massive nights. We spoke about St James's Park there. I believe that can happen. But yeah, Shabazz Massoud obviously been out the ring for a long time. Focus is now in an experienced fight against San Martin. And like I say, good to go straight back in there in a fight that he can get up for as well. He's not far off from challenging for a world title probably towards the end of next year. And these are the kind of fights he needs to get into to be ready for those. Cameron Vong, as you say, brilliant fighter. Saw his debut, sold 600 tickets. He's got a huge future. He's confident. He knows what he needs to do. So looking forward to that as well. You've got Callum French back out. He's had 6 months out of the ring. Tough fight against Jeff Afari as well. He wants to move quickly now, and I think title fights in 2024 will come for him as well. Sorry, you look like you were going to say something.
No, I'm sort of preparing it. But go on.
Mark Dickinson, Mark Dickinson's a great fighter, obviously standout amateur fighter, but he's in for a real fight against Grant Dennis. We saw that there, the two of them going back and forward.
Needle.
Yeah, and I think it's what you need. It's very hard sometimes to get up for a fight where there's nothing between I'm not saying obviously you do it, but that helps. And also to bring out some character in Mark Dickinson as well, because it's the first time we've really seen him like that. I've never experienced him quite like that. And I think, you got the experience of Dennis, and look, as I say, Mark's a standout amateur, but it's a different game in the program. So I think we're in for a great fight there. Ishmael in a brilliant fight, 8-0, 11-0, the kind of fights we need to make. In the sport now. You've got Jimmy Sains as well, who's a brilliant young standout star of ours. We've got huge future plans with him. Obviously, he's a big ticket seller as well. He's bringing a few up here from London, and then the Rees brothers as well. So, top to bottom, it's a great card, and exactly what these next gen shows are all about.
100%, and we're going to hopefully see obviously the stars of the future and the ones that in a few years' time may be headlining on pay-per-view. Look, we need to talk about things that are coming out in the news a bit regarding the Conor Benn, Chris Eubank thing. A lot of talk that Eddie's away currently working on this fight.
I think he's in the gym training for Men's Health, to be honest.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me either, the way he's been going on. But this fight, we've been talking about it for so long now, and obviously with everything that's gone on in the background, in terms of how confident you are, we are going to see it. Very confident. Everything sort of kind of alluded that things are agreed from his end. Is that correct?
Yeah, look, there's, as always, work going on in the background. I'm very confident we see it. I think that you have to look at the reality of this fight. It's the biggest fight out there by a million miles for both of them. Nothing comes close to it. That's just the truth. And I believe the fight happens. Still work to be done, but we are nearly there.
Can we expect an announcement this week, you think?
No, I doubt it. But again, I don't like to say things and they don't happen. They say, well, you said this. It's easier to say, I don't know. I'm not involved. We let the big dogs deal with that. They don't let me get involved with the big discussions. I stay out of it.
Well, look, rumour to happen at either the Principality in Cardiff or Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. How does this sit in terms of the British Boxing Board of Control? Obviously, years gone by, we saw Chisora. I think they fought under, Luxembourg licensed jurisdiction. If the fight does take place in the UK, does it have to have that seal of approval from the British Boxing Board of Control, or can you guys just go ahead with it?
Look, Conor Benn isn't suspended by anyone. He has no suspension. There's no legal reason why Conor Benn can't fight in the UK. Obviously, the British Boxing Board of Control do a tremendous job, and we'll see how things play out. But Conor Benn has no suspension, and there is no reason why he can't fight in the UK.
Is there going to be further talks with them? What's the line of communication been like with the board? Because it's got quite messy this with everything and TalkSport and everything that got involved over the last 12 to 18 months. But is there a clear line of communication to say, look, we want this, the blessing of like the approval kind of thing? We heard they was doing an appeal. Have you had anything about that and where they're at with it?
Yeah, look, the appeal's ongoing. It's not going to be dealt with for quite a while. So unfortunately, until the appeal's done, there's no legal impediment as to why he can't fight right now. Hence why he fought in Florida. We have been speaking to the board. We speak to the board every day. We're the biggest, I think, probably the biggest promoter in the UK in terms of number of shows that we do with the British Boxing Board Control. We have a great relationship with them. We've shared everything we need to with them around this fight. So, we shall see.
Off the back of Tyson Fury, Francis Ngannou, I saw an interview that I think we did with Eddie Hearn, and he suggested that Francis Ngannou, Anthony Joshua would be a huge fight. Why all of a sudden was the attention sort of taken away now from a potential Deontay Wilder fight when that was one that was obviously, in his words by the way, not yours, obviously locked in and still working on it, not looking likely for the Middle East, but still obviously a huge fight commercially, whether you do it at Wembley or Vegas. Why is attention shifted slightly?
Look, I think obviously Francis Ngannou was the man of the moment because he's gone in there and many people believe he's gone in there and beat the number one heavyweight in the world in Tyson Fury. I know he didn't. He didn't beat him. But in many people's eyes, they viewed it that he did win that fight. So, it's a natural fight. It's a mega fight. But all of these fights are huge and I believe that these big fights will happen. I can't answer every question for Eddie, but I believe all of these fights will happen. The key is for us right now is to keep Anthony active. He's wanted us to push for him to stay active. Obviously boxing April, August, and the focus always was December, January. There was some discussion around December 23rd, obviously at one point. Then there was Fury Usyk was set for that date. Then it wasn't, and we were looking at shows. So let's see. I think there'll be news soon, but the focus for us is to keep Anthony active.
Is there potential to see Anthony Joshua before the end of the year with that 23rd date for Fury Usyk been off? I mean, we hear talks of potentially another date in Saudi, maybe involving Ngannou. Are you still looking at getting Anthony Joshua out end of the year, or do you think it'll run into next now?
Yeah, look, we are still looking at opportunities as always for him. As you say, I haven't heard much about the Ngannou talk in Saudi, but our focus is Anthony Joshua, obviously. We were looking at always doing a show in the UK on December 23rd. Then the Fury Usyk stuff was there, but we're getting to the point where we have to make it's 6 and a bit weeks away. So I don't think if something's not done by this weekend, then I think it's going to be a struggle, just in reality of getting a show up and running. But the focus for us is to keep him busy, whether that be December, January. Let's see.
In terms of level of opponents, obviously, he did receive, some criticism in some quarters, but his resume speaks for itself, I suppose, until he leads up to these big fights. Eubank Ruiz Jr., who's saying, look, didn't perform in the rematch, yada yada, let's get back into it. Obviously, everyone wants to see Wilder anyway. What's the priority for AJ? Activity, but what level are we looking at when we talk about activity?
No, I think you'll see him in with a good, decent opponent. A very good opponent. He wants that is the focus for us though, and it's not as easy as just saying, well, he said he'll take the fight, because I'm not saying you, but it's not as easy as just saying that, because you have to do a deal, you have to come to terms. Big fights, they take a long while to negotiate. But I think you'll see him in a good fight, as I say, the focus is keeping him active and keeping him busy, and that's what he's been pressing us for ever since that Usyk fight.
Off the back of obviously Fury and Ngannou, and you'll watch that performance, did it change your mind at all on what you think happens between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk, or is it you just see it as an off night for Tyson? How have you sort of seen it since then?
I think the reality is that they can all beat each other. That's the truth with heavyweight boxing. Not every night you're going to have your best night in the ring. One night you may be 99%, the other guy might be 75%. That's the reality of top tier sport. The difference is in boxing you get to show your skills 2 or 3 times a year. Football, you get to do it every week. You have a bad game, you go back out there 3 or 4 days later and you have a good game and everyone forgets the bad game. Boxing's very different, and like I say, obviously Tyson will come under pressure because people position him as like the modern day position him in that. So when you go into a fight against someone who's never had a professional fight before and it's a close fight, I don't think it was a robbery. I think people were more shocked by what Ngannou managed to do, that then in their heads they went, I think Ngannou won that. If it went either way, I don't think you could argue. but there was many moments in the fight where both of them weren't really doing much. So I think it's high-level sport, like I say, and not every night you're going to have your best night in there.
Would you fancy Francis Ngannou against any of the other top 10? No, well, needless to say. But Sam Jones was speaking to him and he says, obviously, going down the list, he won't give him a chance against many of them. He says Johnny Fisher, he believes, will flatten him. What do you think would happen if, say, Francis Ngannou against a Joseph Parker, a Derek Chisora, when you sort of go down that list of heavyweights? Do you still think he's, he could mix it with these guys off the back of that?
I mean, look, the reality is everyone said before, and people can say now, I said he had a chance. No one gave him a chance against Tyson Fury in any which way to even get through the fight. So, we can all talk. Who knows? Again, it comes down to, on the night, how do people perform? I do think the reality is UFC's a wild sport, or MMA, in terms of you get shins in the head. I've never had a shin in the head. I can imagine it's quite uncomfortable. So, I'm getting Andy's over there saying he's going to kick me in the head in a bit. I don't know why. But he's a tough man. He's a very tough man. But like I say, no one gave him any hope against Tyson Fury of doing anything. So, who knows? Who knows? I am not the boxing expert, and I'm not going to say anything, because one day you say something and then everyone goes, well, you said that. I haven't got a clue about the sport of boxing. I'm not a boxing trainer. I'm merely a promoter.
You've not got a clue about the sport of boxing?
No, about actually using your jab, and I think people will now know a little bit more of what to expect because they've seen his style. That changes things. But like I say, he's a tough man, and he's got a big punch, obviously.
One thing I wanted to ask you, I was scrolling through Twitter, and Teofimo Lopez has come out with some comments. It felt like a bit out of the blue regarding DAZN, saying it won't last no more than 5 years. Considering the shows DAZN have put on, obviously a lot of investment, branching out all over sports, it's getting huge. What do you make of them comments, and where do you think that's coming from? Is it coming from obviously the fight that he's had there with Kambosos on DAZN? Where's it coming from?
There probably is a hint of a problem from when he lost on DAZN, like mentally, in terms of he now positions it that way. But DAZN's in a great place. People like Teofimo Lopez probably isn't aware that DAZN's a global platform that houses some of the biggest rights in sports around the world. They've just agreed a new deal with Serie A in Italy. They've obviously got, whether it be Germany, whether it be Italy, Spain, Japan, they're a mega business. So I don't know, I think it's a talking point, trying to get some traction on social media. Probably bored one day and thinks it will be something that people start talking about.
With Showtime obviously leaving boxing at the end of this year, there's talks of them moving to Amazon. There's still talks of they could jump on DAZN. You think if they were to move on to an app like DAZN, it'd make fights, theoretically, maybe easier to make, cross promotion?
Yeah, possibly, for sure. I think anything that helps grow and build the sport is great. That includes new investment into the sport. But the reality is there's only so much space for so many broadcasts, and I think that's what Showtime saw. But I definitely think big fights can be made, especially with promoters working together. Let's see. That's obviously a DAZN discussion, more so than us. We're in a great position with DAZN. We've got a great run of shows coming to the end of the year, working on a big plan for 2024. But I think we're on a great little run, and it's exciting times. And any new fighters coming on, any new fights that have potential of being made, whether that be with other promoters, it's important that everyone's working together, and I think you'll see more of that.
Frank Smith, appreciate your time.